We are now roughly 1 year removed from the 2022 NHL Draft, and as of right now, no one has kind of separated themselves from the pack as a top guy. Of course, there's the guys that have played the NHL already, like Uri Slafkovsky and Shane Wright, but both kind of had underwhelming seasons, especially Shane Wright. Then there's two European studs that were highly drafted in Simo Nemec and David Jiricek, who had some solid AHL campaigns. But right now it seems like the player that most people are hyped about is Logan Cooley, who had a great year in the University of Minnesota and earned a Hobey Baker nomination. But what if I told you that the best player from this draft, or at least the one with the most potential, isn't any of those guys, and that this player was actually drafted 9th overall? And of course I'm talking about Matt Savoy from the Buffalo Sabres. And I believe that he has both the means and the opportunity to become the best player from this draft class. I'm going to explain why in this video. Now first I want to talk about his background info, so we can get a sense of his journey to this point. After playing minor hockey above his age groups in St. Albert, he moved to NAX Academy, where after a dominant season putting up a scoring rate of 2.3 points per game while playing U18 at just 14 years old, he was selected first overall by the Winnipeg Ice in the WHL's Bantam Draft. At this point the spotlight is upon him, and he's viewed as the top guy alongside Shane Wright in his class in many early mock drafts. And this is also kind of where the disrespect from Hockey Canada begins, as he's not given the exceptional status by the league even after Wright received it. However, denying it proves to be fair as he does struggle in the games he does play for the Ice after turning 16, although he begins to find his footing towards the end of the last few games there. In 2020-2021, during the infamous COVID season, he decides to play in the USHL before the WHL starts up, and has a strong season scoring 21 goals and over a point per game for the Dubuque Fighting Saints. However, with the draft just a year away now, he's not getting talked about quite as much, and some other prospects have started to set themselves into conversations for the top 5. Nevertheless, he starts to prove them wrong as he returns to Winnipeg for his draft season, exploding out the gate with a commanding lead in points for the WHL by December, and still Hockey Canada does not even invite him to the World Juniors camp. The WHL leading scorer isn't even considered one of the top 40 players by Hockey Canada. Anyway, he continues to do his thing for the rest of the year, although his production does start to stagnate after New Year's, and others surpass him as he finishes with a very respectable 90 points in just 65 games, finishing 7th overall in the WHL, with the most among anyone in the 2022 class. After a strong playoff run with 12 points in 10 games, he was knocked out of the game 2 with a shoulder injury in the Eastern Conference Finals against the eventual champion Oil Kings. And that brings us to the draft. And at this point, he's no longer considered on the same level as Wright, but he's still consistently mocked in the top 5, with many analysts having him as their 3rd or 4th guy of the board. He ends up sliding a decent amount to 9th after some strange circumstances and a weird lack of hype. And then this year in his draft plus 1 year, he has a good but not outstanding year production-wise with 95 points in 62 games, but a great playoff run with 29 points in 19, tying for 2nd overall. So that's kind of the background info on Savoy, and as you can see, he's grown dramatically as a player each and every year, and the NHL just sort of randomly backed off him for some reason. But I believe that falling to Buffalo might actually be a blessing in disguise, as they actually seem to be progressing through a good rebuild this time. I think he'll be able to find success there. So now we're going to get some game film here, and we're going to be watching this game against Seattle in the playoffs. It's game 3, and Savoy's number 93 right here. And this is going to showcase just how special of a skater he is. He's probably one of the best in the class up there with Cooley, and his acceleration is particularly special. So on this play here, puck's going to go up top. This Seattle player gets his shot blocked right here. And now right now you can see Savoy is basically level with this dude at this point here. And you're going to watch how quickly he's going to just pull away from him. As he starts to get some explosive strides going, just a quick 3 strides, he gets some explosiveness already going from this guy. And Benson here hits him with the pass, and watch how he does these quick little crossovers to the inside. Is a quick 2 crossovers here, and then there's another quick 2 crossovers outside here. That brings up the lead even more. He's basically in all alone here. You can see how far he's separated from these guys, and unfortunately he has kind of like flubbed the shot. I guess he whiffs on it a bit. But the main part about this play is just how special of a skater he is, and how he can quickly pull away from guys even at the highest levels. On this clip here, it's nothing special, but I just want to use it to break down his mechanics and what makes him such a great skater. Like I mentioned in the last video, it's really the crossovers that he gets that allows him to get that first explosive step. And another thing you can see about him is that toe flick he gets. He's going to flick the ice with his back toe, which allows him to get that extra push off. And he really has great form here too, and he gets a couple shots going, gets his back into a 45-degree angle, nice and aerodynamic, keeps his hips loaded, and he gets that nice stride length, which allows him to push off and be extra explosive. And on the way back here, you can just watch this more, see how explosive he is. He comes around here, gets a couple crossovers going, and just blows by all these guys here. And I really think he's like one of the best skaters, even in the NHL today, like up there with like the top 5 or 6 guys. That's how great he is at it. Here's another play I liked from his game here. It's in the second period, it's 4-on-4. So this defender's getting tapped in the corner. Savoy and his teammate here are going to kind of tag team him. He gets the puck free and eventually knocks it back all the way to the point guy. And now you can watch as this point defenseman makes a nice move around this guy. You can sort of see Savoy here at the edge of the screen coming in here. As Simpson kind of gets free from these guys, you can watch how he recognizes there's a lane here in between these defenders, and he immediately takes advantage for it, starts calling for the puck. His defensive partner makes a nice pass right across to him, and instead of taking the shot here and kind of making what would be a potentially a decent shot here. He holds onto it, waits a little bit patience, then makes a nice backdoor pass to Benson here. And it's just a great collection of all of his skills in that one play. And that leads us into his next part of his game, which is his playmaking. It's a very focal part of what makes him good as a player. And you can just check his assist numbers, like they're very good. And he's a very willing passer, has great awareness. And you can see it on this play here, which is a game from in the AHL. It's a Rochester playoff game. And this is only his second AHL game when they put it right on the first line in a massive playoff game. That just shows you how much faith they have in him as a player. So what's going to happen here, the puck's going to come loose. He's going to collect it. He's going to take a quick shoulder check, sees this guy coming across, waits to draw on these two guys before flinging a backhand pass right to his teammate for a scoring chance. That shows good awareness and a willingness to pass, which is good traits you see in a playmaker. And unfortunately, this player can't quite get the goal, but it's good to see Savoy from these traits, especially in a professional level. And it's this type of awareness and quick thinking that allows him to function well in his role as the power play. In a 1-3-1 power play, he plays as the bumper player, which is the guy in the middle. It's kind of the central passing option. He's got 4 passing outlets, and it's his job to pick the right one. So in this play here, puck's gonna come to him from the point, and he's got his back turned to this player, but he knows 3 guys are closing in on him. He knows exactly where his guy is, so he doesn't hesitate. Takes it, rips it right onto this guy over here, who puts it across the net for a tic-tac-toe goal, and it's an easy goal for Winnipeg, and that shows off just how valuable he is on the power play. And Winnipeg wants the deployment is kind of central all the time because he's very good at assessing his options and making the right play. Here he's going to receive the puck up high here. He's got a guy down low and 2 guys coming. He's going to walk in here, wait for this guy to slowly draw him out of the space over here with some hands. Low look, passes it down low. This guy's now way out of position and it leaves a great space down low for this guy to make a nice pass across. It's another tic-tac goal for Winnipeg. And despite getting the secondary assist on that play, he's very much a big contributor, drawing that guy out of that space and allowing his teammate to set up the other pass. Now that we've talked about his skating ability and his playmaking ability, we've covered 2 of the 3 kind of essentials when it comes to making an elite player offensively in today's game. When you look at guys like McDavid, McKinnon, they all have things in common that are 3 elite traits. That's head, hands, and feet. Head is being good hockey sense and playmaking ability kind of. Hands is obviously beating them off the rush, and feet is skating. So we've covered head and feet for Savoy. Now we can talk about his hands, because he does have elite ability to break guys down one-on-one on the rush, which also makes him such a triple threat. So you can get the puck here, and immediately looks facing this guy one-on-one, sort of halts up a little bit, fakes him outside, then comes in, has a wide stance, does a quick pivot move, kind of gets stoned here, but he picks up the puck and is able to put it back out front for a goal for Winnipeg. And you can see how he sort of broke down his man there and the goaltender, and that kind of led to, and indirectly, a nice goal for Winnipeg. Now, this play here is kind of a combination of hands and feet, as he shows some good skating as well. But you can see what happens here. His puck's going to come from a rink wide, and he's squaring up with this guy one-on-one direct. Gets some crossover, so he's just going to attack this guy right up. Does a little under the stick move, that's kind of that power edge pro, and then does come crossovers, gets low, leans down, and gets the inside leverage on this guy, beats him pretty easily here, and now he's going to move the puck onto his right stick to avoid this poke check from this guy, and shield the puck from his body, and is able to keep enough balance here and finish with a nice goal. And you can see how his hands and his feet both can allow him to kind of beat guys off the rush. He's such a threat in those kind of scenarios like that. So now that we've established that he has all of these traits, we can see them in action. And this leads to good play driving ability, which is creating more chances, more shot opportunities than your opponents. And Matt Savoy does this very well, and he's very much the catalyst for this Winnipeg team. You know, it's a very good team right now, there's a lot of stars on it, but I think he really is the engine of this offense. And you can see on this play here, he's going to scoop up the puck in the defensive zone, breaks through the middle zone, the neutral zone, does a little under the stick move again on this guy into the zone, and now he's going to cut across here as McLennan runs past, and he's going to do a quick backhand slip pass right underneath this guy's stick inside, and McLennan's going to bury it. You can see how Savoy started this play from all the way back in the defensive zone, and how he's able to kind of create that opportunity for his teammates using his 3 traits. So I know you must be thinking right now, if he's so great, how exactly did he fall all the way to 9th overall in the draft? And that kind of puzzles me as well. All I can say is that I think a lot of the scouts sort of backed off him when the draft approached for some reason. But many still had him going kind of in the top 5 to 6 range, maybe just behind guys like Wright, Slavkovsky, Cooley, and Nemec if a team really needed defensemen. But the fact that players like Cutter Gauthier and Marco Kasper went ahead of him are a little bit disgraceful in my opinion. And I definitely think he's better than those guys by a decent amount. Of course, there are people that will list real weaknesses in his game, like a lot of times his points are kind of power play reliant, and of course the fact that he's a smaller player. But both of these don't really have anything to do with his actual game. Like, if he's a smaller player, I mean, there's lots of guys that have kind of proved they can be successful at that height, like Cole Caulfield, Alex DeBrincat. And he's basically, especially because he's kind of a more stocky player, he's built well. He's not going to be too outmatched in the corners because he's over 180 85 pounds around there. Plus he's got a very low center of gravity, and he can battle with the best of them. So I think it's not really a big deal. As far as the power play reliance, I mean, that's how a lot of players are in the NHL. And just because he's doing that in junior doesn't really mean that can be the case in the league as well. So I don't know if those are a little bit of trivial weaknesses. I mean, they're not really about his actual game itself, so I don't think they're too important. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was what I said earlier in the video, how actually falling to Buffalo is kind of a blessing in disguise. And the reason that is because I feel like Buffalo is actually going about this rebuild very well. They've accumulated a lot of talent. And this guy here, Tony Ferrari, recently compared him to Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning, which I think is actually a pretty good comparison because I kind of believe that this Buffalo Sabres team can kind of take over for the Lightning and dominate the Atlantic, sort of like they did. Maybe not to quite the same degree. But if you look at what they're building right now, they've got Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, and then Darlene and Owen Power on the back end with guys like Zach Benson coming in. They could be poised to take over from them for the next like 5 to 6 years. And I think that Savoy can definitely fill that center role as a central playmaker and facilitator like Braden Point was for the Lightning. So that's pretty much all I want to say in this video. And it's basically just I believe in the talent is the main thing. And also I think that this location for him in Buffalo, as much as they've been kind of, more of a dumpster fire organization over the last like 10 years or so and have made the playoffs, I really think they're on the come up, and like avoiding a team like Arizona or Philly I think is really crucial to his development. And another thing I really believe about him is that his mentality is really strong. I mean, this is a guy who's like, he's been compared to Connor McDavid since he was like 11 years old, and he's always been like hyped up. He's like, this guy should be the future #1 pick, and he's never really let the pressure get to him. He's had some tough seasons, but he's always able to overcome the adversity and have a bounce back year. I really think that's going to separate him from guys like Cooley and Slavkovsky. Not that they're like mentally weak or anything, but maybe haven't had the spotlight on them at such a young of an age. So I think that those two things really or those three things, are going to help him to succeed at the next level, and at the very least he'll become a very certified player that can play in the league for a long time.